call to order the Sioux Falls City Council Fiscal Committee meeting. Today's February 13th. We are meeting at 4 o'clock, a little different for those of you that are, City Council groupies. You know that we normally have an informational meeting, but tonight we have a little different program. We've invited several representatives of some of our local nonprofit organizations to talk about city funding and how they might use city funding. And so the Fiscal Committee has been in a process of talking about this and defining the role of government for a while. And so we're just kind of continuing that conversation. I'm going to start this meeting with, I need an approval of the minutes. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
And second.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. I'm going to ask Dave Bixler, our budget analyst, to open this up. He has really done the bulk of the heavy lifting on this project as he's gotten all these folks organized, and we're so appreciative not only of your work, Dave, but also of those folks that are here this evening. So if you'll just kind of open this up and we'll get rolling.
Okay, Dave Bixler, budget analyst for the City Council. Through the 2018 budget process, the third-party and nonprofit contracts were being reviewed, and of those, there were 22 entities that were going to be looked at and reviewed by the Fiscal Committee. 15 have been completed, and we have 7 left, and they will be finished tonight, and they're all here for presentation. And so the first one we have is Volunteers of America, Dakotas, and Stephanie Monroe will present.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder to the committee that these are all items that were in the operating budget for 2018, and we're not talking really to city staff today. We're really just talking to those folks that represent the organization. So Volunteers of America, please.
Thank you, members of the council. Stephanie Monroe with Volunteers of America Dakotas. I'm the Managing Director of Children, Youth, and Family Services. We've had the opportunity to interact with many of you over the course of the year, and we certainly appreciate that. Volunteers of America provides a variety of services to the citizens here in Sioux Falls, both in working with those with behavioral health needs, those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, those struggling with homelessness, and uplifting children, youth, and families. And so the program area that I'll be visiting with you about this afternoon is specific to our children, youth, and families area, formerly known as the Bowdoin Youth Center, now called the Youth Services Center, will be the focus of the overview and comments. Many of you have had the opportunity to visit the Youth Center. Over the course of the years, we did operate out of a building on 430 West 11th Street. You'll note that just recently over the Christmas holiday, we relocated to a new location on our 51st Street campus, 1309 West 51st Street, and our youth center services reopened there on January 2nd, and we'll have an opportunity to provide an overview of the services that we provide at the center in totality, and visit with you specifically about how city funding is used to provide those supports. We provide after-school programming and out-of-school time programming to children between the ages of 7 and 17. There's a no-cost membership to families, so all of the services that we provide on site are at no cost to the children and families that we serve. During the school year, we're open Monday through Friday from 3 to 9 p.m., and during the summer, we're open Monday through Friday from noon to 6. The hours of operation that we're open are unique to the youth center services that we provide. We're one of the only centers, if not the only center in the city that's open until 9. And as you know and hear about the needs of children and families in this community, transportation is one of the unique needs that often children and families face to access enrichment activities and after-school activities, as is hours of operation. Most after-school programs operated in the city are only open until 6 p.m. And so we meet a unique need for those children and families post 6 o'clock. And know that many of the families and children that we serve are still working, so transportation home meets a unique need for them as well. We pick up at 6 elementary schools and 2 middle schools in the city. And we also have a pickup location just starting in January of 2018 at the downtown library branch. One of the questions that arose as we were considering a move from our downtown location to our 51st Street campus was how families and children in the downtown corridor, specifically Pettigrew Heights, might access those services, and that led us to operate a pickup spot at the downtown library branch, which is at 4:30 every afternoon. And so that is open to any child between the ages of 7 and 17 who might want to access those services at our 51st Street campus, and they're provided a ride home at the end of the evening, just as any other youth in this center. Another note about the transportation services that we provide, and you'll hear me note that several times in the discussion because it's such a significant need for children and families in the city, is that we transport youth home anywhere in the city. And so it doesn't matter which school they come from or how they access the center services. If they're there in the center and need a ride home, we'll provide that to them. We have 2 specific programs that provide academic support and out-of-school time. Those are funded primarily through the Department of Education, but they serve those 4 schools. Our STARS program serves 4 elementary schools and the 2 middle schools that are listed there. Those are all Title I schools, meaning that we're providing academic support, specifically homework help and math and literacy. And students from each of those schools are identified in partnership with the Sioux Falls School District, and then we provide a pickup at each of those schools and transport them back to our center for classroom help and education. You can note there in the slide our capacity for each of those programs. Our STARS program is capacity of 40, and our middle school program has a total capacity of 20, and you can see our average numbers of attendance there for the last school year and over the summer. Our academic programs measure success in 3 primary areas: math and literacy, and also in social skill development. Our academic supports are independently evaluated, and interventions are independently evaluated in a partnership with Sanford Research. And so the percentages that you see here are from a report that they completed for us in October of 2017. And you can see we have significant increases in social skill development, as well as maintenance of reading level and improved math scores. It won't be a surprise to any of the community members that the students that we serve typically face significant deficits in math and literacy, and we know that if our literacy scores aren't at a grade level by 3rd grade, that we're continually behind in not just reading and math, but also just academic achievement. And so our tutoring and after-school programs focus specifically on those areas. Our Kids Campus program is the second academic program that we provide on site, which is also funded through the Department of Education. You can see Lowell and Hawthorne are served through those 2 programs, and we pick up at those schools as well and then transport home at the end of the evening. Our outcome measures are very similar for our Kids Campus program as they are for our STARS program. So again, we're looking at social skills development, literacy, and math. You can see that we've still got some work to do with our students in math. I think that's a common trend that we see with many of the schools that we serve. In addition to the academic support that we provide, all of the programs at the center, whether academic after-school supports or our drop-in services, are fully licensed with the state as an after-school program, and so all of our services are licensed. Our agency is accredited with the Council on Accreditation as well. We provide a variety of social and recreational opportunities and community partnership, whether that be through Outdoor Campus, the Washington Pavilion, going to Sanford STEM learning opportunities, and so we don't focus just on academic supports, but on providing enrichment activities as well. Our center services are very structured, and so they have a structured time during the time that they're there. So whether that's providing recreational opportunities in our gym or field trip opportunities, from that 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock time frame, we have a 1 to 15 staff ratio, and so all of our services are supervised. Each of our rooms is supervised, and our academic services are supervised as well from either direct support staff or teachers in the classroom. Enhanced family engagement is something that we'll focus on in the next year because we believe that's critical to students' self-sufficiency and success. And so this year we've added a pilot program for a family coach, which will engage those families and students in the center with ensuring that their students can make progress in their academics. And we know that many families are faced with challenges and supporting their child in the classroom as well as out-of-home care. And so we've got a pilot program for a family coach for up to 15 hours a week. That's funded through the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation, and we plan to continue that pilot once that's completed in this year. Meals are a significant piece of the support that we provide in terms of healthy nutrition and education. We serve a meal every night at the center at 6 o'clock, and to any youth in the center, no matter where they come from in the city. We served over 9,000 meals last year and about 4,200 snacks, and so we're meeting that need for food insecurity as well. I mentioned transportation earlier in my opening remarks. We believe that that's a significant need that we're meeting for access for students and as well as transportation home for parents who may only have one car or have limited access to transportation. And so you can see there that we are relying on 3 rides home every night. City funding makes up a little less than 20% of our operating budget. Our primary funding sources are through the Department of Education, the 21st Century Learning Centers that I mentioned earlier. The United Way makes up a significant portion of our operating budget as well, as is the city funding through Parks and Rec and public contributions. I know we provided a great deal of information in the application as well as supporting documents and an executive summary. I would open the floor for comments or questions at this time from the council.
Great, thank you so much. Stephanie, would you clarify for me the percentage of your budget that is city funding?
It makes up just under 20%. I believe it's approximately 17.
Great. Okay, questions from the committee. Councilor Erickson? Yes? No? Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your responses. You guys were very thorough, and the information that you gave was very helpful as we move through some of this. My question, and maybe you addressed it and I missed it, but my question is how, I know there is still space with some of the capacity, so do you seek out additional students that maybe would qualify? How would a student qualify for this if they're coming from a certain school?
Sure, thank you for the question. In the 2 academic programs that we provide now, those are identified by the district, and I just checked on numbers today. We do have a few openings, and we do see some transition throughout the school year when families move from school to school. But that connection and that partnership with the district specifically, particularly with school liaisons and with school counselors and also principals at each of those schools, are our main connections for identifying the students that might need additional supports and may want to enroll. And our staff are in ongoing communication. If we happen to have openings or see transition, those would be our contacts.
As you stated earlier, most of the students that you're seeing are at a higher risk or a higher need of either academic or maybe a financial burden, and so you're filling that need of also keeping them safe, warm place to go as mom and dad are still working, but you're also providing an academic structure to help them continue to get their work done, give them a warm meal, make sure they stay out of trouble. I mean, it's very multifaceted.
It's well put, yes. It's a very comprehensive piece, not just from the academic support that we provide at the beginning of the day, but then transitioning into our Center for Recreational Activities, the meal, and then the transportation home for those who need it.
One more, if I may, sorry. Can I ask one more?
Go ahead.
Do you utilize the Freedom Pass for transportation, or is that something that you just transport through? The city council passed a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, the Freedom Pass.
The bus pass you're referring to?
Yep,
Yes.
through the summertime.
Thank you for that. It's a wonderful benefit to the families that we serve. In the transportation that we provide specifically, that's something that the center provides as part of our operating. And so our families, the families that we serve, may be using the Freedom Pass to access other services, but they often don't rely on the bus system specifically to access our services or transport home.
That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
Counselor Starr.
Thank you. I guess my question, to follow up a little bit on Counselor Erickson's point, there's no cost to participate in your program, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then it's hard to do this, but give me an idea where these students would go if your program didn't exist. I mean, I think that part of it would rely on, that they would get into trouble, they wouldn't do as well in school, they may start down that path of chemical dependency and using those kind of things. I mean, would that be a fair assumption?
I think there's an element of risk involved, certainly at times where you have, particularly whether it's younger children or even older children into middle school and high school. Oftentimes what occurs in that instance, particularly after that 6 o'clock time frame, is that you would have siblings home caring for siblings. I mean, that's one potential outcome of that, just due to the lack of resources and access for a wide age range between that 7 to 17. And so that's certainly one piece that we see as we talk with families, is that, or we have families accessing center services, that you would have siblings home caring for siblings. Not to use an antiquated term, but latchkey kids is something that we're all familiar with. I think the other piece of that is just in relationship to, there are certainly a number of other after school and out of school time services here in the city that are useful programs as well. I don't think the city is at a shortage of need for that. Community centers may meet a need for that, but again, one of the things that we see with our services is that post that 6 o'clock time frame, then there really becomes a gap in the city for where children and families can access those supports. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, and like I said, I wanted to follow up because I think a big part of what we're trying to talk about today is this our role to provide the funding for these type of programs and to get a feel for where our dollars are used on the other side of it and make sure that we do the best for our taxpayers to get a return on our investment. And, I've spent a lot of time lately talking both to library community centers, your type of programs is some of the ones we're going to talk to later. And I hear from constituents all the time, what are you doing to prevent drug and alcohol use in town? And I keep saying over and over again, if we keep young people active, they're involved in school, we provide, I know a couple of our library branches are also providing snack at the end of the day, and I've shared that story several times with this group that my kids are taught to not have food around books, and so they got all excited when they saw the food and books and library at the same time. And so explaining to them that how important it is that, when you leave school and how an after school snack is so important and how you don't behave as well as you should if you're hungry. I mean, a simple thing as an afternoon snack can eliminate some of the trouble that they could cause, and they're a lot easier to deal with in those times. So really more just finishing up, again, where would these kids go if they didn't have your program, and more rhetorical at this point. So thank you for being here this afternoon.
Okay, we're already skating past our schedule, but Councilor Rolfing.
I won't take up but a second, but first of all, that must be why I act better when I get a snack in the middle of the afternoon.
I'm bringing you a snack next week, Rex.
Oh, we have granola bars, right?
One of the things, granola bar. One of the things that I wanted to point out here is one of your slides that gives us real data through Sanford of how this program is helping kids. So 94% increased social skills, which is what you're talking about. 78 maintained improved reading level, and 71% maintained or improved math scores. Fantastic. That's the kind of raw data that helps us make decisions. So thank you.
Right. And then, and just for the other presenters, I'll make sure that everyone has equal time, but just one more quick question. There are 7 school districts in Sioux Falls. So do you deal with students from all of those school districts or only from the Sioux Falls School District?
We serve, just our services right now are from the Sioux Falls School District. Certainly we're open to opportunities for expansion and additional discussion with those if that was something that was an opportunity to explore. Right now our services are centered and our official partnerships are just with the Sioux Falls School District.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. No other questions from the group? Thank you so much. Appreciate, as Councilor Erickson said, all of the time that you've put into it and for you to being here this afternoon as well. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on in our schedule. The YMCA After School Middle School After School Program. How many times can I say the word school? This is also under the Parks and Rec. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Once again, my name is Eric Tucker. I'm director of the YMCA in Sioux Falls. And after talking to Dave, we had talked about, that one there? Sure. Talking a little bit about the history of the YMCA, a little information about the movement. I know we're quick on time, so I'm going to skip over a lot of the history element of this. But as an organization, we've been active in the United States since 1851, and we've been in continuous operation in Sioux Falls since 1919. So our big building downstairs is going to celebrate 100 years next year, which is pretty exciting. We started out as a youth service organization, and that's what we continue to focus on today. As far as nationwide, we're one of the largest nonprofit 501c3 organizations in the country. We've got 22 million members. We serve 10 million kids every day. But what makes us so effective is that the YMCA is truly owned and operated by the communities that we serve. I did include in some of the packets just some fun facts about the contributions that the Y has made to our society, from holidays to sports, basketball, volleyball, racquetball, you name it. I think the power of the Y has always been in the question that we ask, which is, what can we do for the community? And that's how we've stayed relevant for so long in so many different places. So good stuff up there. Hallmark greeting cards. Can you believe it? Founded in Y Housing. We are also in 120 countries, and collectively we raise about $1 billion a year. And if you travel to places like the Philippines, the Y might be doing dental care. If you're in South Africa, it might be doing HIV prevention or education. And so we really are a neat organization. A little bit about the locations that we're at. We're in all 50 states nationwide. In South Dakota, as you can see on the map there, the Sioux Falls region really stretches from the Minnesota border down, getting close to Sioux City. There's also a YMCA there. Our mission impact, as far as statewide, we serve over 6,000 kids in camping. And of course, Camp Leif Erikson is over half of that. We served 3,400 kids there last summer alone, which was awesome. It was a record year for us. And of course, we raise lots of money statewide at the local level. And we're also the largest provider of childcare and after-school programs in the state of South Dakota. As far as what we're doing here in Sioux Falls, we engage over 1,200 volunteers every year, and that can be from serving on the board to being a volunteer coach, reading to kids in a child care program, or what have you. We, on our own, raise about $500,000 in financial assistance from our annual support campaign. You can also see on there that the United Way allocates $322,000 for us. We have a federal food program that we utilize at camp, where we serve all 3,400 kids in the summer and any staff member that's under the age of 18. And then, of course, we have our city funding that we've been receiving from the city for several years now. We serve 15,000 children in after-school childcare, summer camp, teen programs, youth sports, you name it. If you've been paying attention in the media lately, you may have heard that we've made some changes at the Sioux Falls Y, and that was largely due to a community needs assessment that we did in 2016, which echoes some of the things that the VOA was talking about, was food security, quality, safe programs for kids, are at the top of the line as far as needs, and affordable housing is something that the YMCA did downtown with our housing portion, and now we are also building another low-income housing area out on 8th and Cliff. And so we've really taken those portions of what the community said seriously, and we've really changed our service delivery downtown. We still have a membership base. We're still doing family and adult programs in the traditional way, but we're largely serving youth, particularly after school and on the weekends. This is really the foundation of what the Y does. We're all for youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. The after-school program, clearly, is part of the youth development piece, nurturing the potential of every child and teen. Our mission is to address the critical social issues affecting our community. So those are things, the erosion in social, emotional development, negative youth behaviors, increase in academic disparity among children and teens of different backgrounds. And we see that a lot in the immigrant communities that have been coming to Sioux Falls, and inadequate adult and community supports. And that mentoring was part of the big, the data that we collected. That was one of the big things that emerged. Our intent is to ensure youth realize their potential to become active, engaged, and thriving members of the community. The Y will nurture their social, emotional, cognitive, and physical development through our holistic youth programming experiences and supports. Now, we have been running the after-school program at the middle schools in Sioux Falls for decades. And I'm going to flip to that real quick. So the schools that we currently serve, Edison, McGovern, Memorial, Patrick Henry, and Whittier, we serve over 1,000 children in these programs every day. At the Whittier and McGovern locations, it's completely free to kids, including transportation, snacks, all that good stuff. We do have fee programs at Memorial, Patrick Henry, and Edison. Although we raise a lot of money in conjunction with the city funding, we never turn away any child for the inability to pay. And so it's free for anybody on those programs that need the program as well. On the elementary school side, we opened up a new child care center on the west side. We also acquired a gymnastics complex where we run an after-school program that serves, and this is new since we applied here several years ago. We serve Discovery, JFK, Laura Wilder, Oscar Howe, RF Pettigrew, Sonia Sotomayor. And then downtown, we're going to start serving Hawthorne, Anderson, and Lowell after school as well. And so this fits in well with our trajectory of serving more kids. I think some of the benefits of our program, and I think it's been so effective, and I won't go into super detail here, but we truly do partner with the schools. We have great relationships with the principals. We ask how the YMCA program can complement and support the curriculum or the behavior management techniques of the school. We've got great staff that we hire, and I think all of the nonprofits in this room would tell you that's probably one of our biggest challenges, is finding great people with the job market the way it is, but we continue to find those folks. We listen to our parents. We do a lot of qualitative and quantitative data research. We want to know that we're doing a quality job. We include physical activity, and as I mentioned before, we never turn anybody away for an inability to pay. Some of the other benefits that students get that are in our program, they get healthy snacks. We really utilize our other locations to bring a better experience for kids. So, one of the stories we like to tell quickly here is that, horseback riding is one of those sports that, you usually have to be, affluent or have, be well connected or whatever. And to take kids from Whittier and McGovern out to Camp Leaf Erickson to horseback ride or shoot bow and arrow or be on the ropes course is really something unique that we can do. And so we utilize that. We utilize our gymnastics program, our trampolines, all that good stuff on the west side. So we do lots of field trips for these kids at the middle school. So it's not just, hanging out in the gym after school. Homework help. The activities connecting school curriculum, we do a lot with STEM. And then there are family benefits as well. We include a free family membership for all the families. All of our youth memberships downtown are free, and parents can accompany their kids to do different activities. We have free Parents Time Out programming on Saturday nights where parents can drop their kids off ages 3 to 13 and they can go out to dinner or whatever downtown. And then, of course, we've got all our courts. Nationwide membership is something that the YMCA just rolled out nationally. And so anybody that's a member of the YMCA in Sioux Falls is now a member of over 2,000 locations nationwide, and that includes the kids that attend our programs. And then, of course, we have sibling discounts with those things that we do. By the numbers, we serve over 1,000 children that are registered in our elementary and after-school programs. They're unanimous about feeling safe in our programs, and that is always at the top of our list, is that kids not only feel, of course, physically safe, but emotionally safe to talk to our staff. 83%, they agree that the after-school program has helped them make new friends and build new self-confidence. 77% feel that it's helped them stay away from drugs and alcohol, and these are all self-reported from the kids themselves. 75% feel the program has encouraged them to try new things, and 73% feel like the program truly helps them make better decisions. And a father of a 7th grader, that sounds great. So that's just sort of the basics of what we do in Sioux Falls broadly, and then the after-school program that we've historically run and the new ones that we've opened up. So, any questions?
Great.
Is that quick enough? Fast enough?
Thank you very much.
Good to go? All
We
right.
will, of course, ask
Thanks.
questions. So,
Yeah.
questions from the committee. Councilor Starr.
Yes, thank you. Tell me about, I don't see any overlap between the earlier program or the earlier presentation from Volunteers of America, Mr. Tupper. Do you feel like there's overlapping services that would be detrimental to what we're doing? I mean, we're again, that's what we're trying to get to today is a big part of it is that we're not providing too many services or that they overlap too much.
I would say the results from our survey were pretty clear. We don't have enough. You know, when our board was looking at the future of our organization, there's 77 health clubs in Sioux Falls. Clearly, the needs for folks that want to better their health have been being met in other locations. But on the youth side, we know that there's not enough. There's not enough in this room, because I could stand up here, and I'm sure a lot of the other organizations could too, and just tell you stories about kids that wear the same shoes to school every day. They don't have any food to eat. I mean, there's real pain and anguish in their faces. There really is. And I think that if there were 10 more organizations our size in this room, we might be getting close. But, our community really, really needs this.
Tell me about your fee structure again. Has there been changes in the last year, or
Yes.
how do we get to
Sure.
what you charge?
Sure. So, in a broad brush here, we never turn a child away for an inability to pay for any program, and that can be camp after school, youth basketball, gymnastics, you name it. And so, any money that we can collect philanthropically, whether it's from private donations or city grants or United Way or whatever, really helps offset that. The one thing that's new for this year is we used to have a charge for youth memberships downtown, but now we've been bringing in many of our kids from our middle school programs, particularly Whittier and McGovern, who a lot of those kids are in the local neighborhoods around the Y. When we changed to this model, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't a child that couldn't come down to the Y to, be safe or play a game or be in the game room or whatever. So yeah. So it's as free. It's free for everybody that needs it, and for those that can pay, they do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good. Councilor Rolfing.
Did I hear you say that the housing end of it, you still own all the building down there? And you have the lower income apartments, is that it?
We do. This was through South Dakota Housing, and so the partnership with Citibank Financing, we work with Lloyd companies, and we built what is currently a 52-unit low-income housing area that's based on what a family makes per year. That has been full basically since we opened, and any of the families that live there, and they really are from all walks of life, or also have free YMCA memberships. They also get discounts on our child care program, and we just opened up a new child care program downtown as well. And then in our new housing area, we'll have the same kind of benefits that go along with that. It's about a safe place. It's also about a healthy lifestyle, and a great place for your kids to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Erickson.
Just curious, and I should have asked this earlier, but
Sure.
To the previous presenter, but my question is in regards to what mechanism do you use for reporting to the city? I know we give you $136,000 to serve those youth. But what can you tell me about as far as reporting? Do you send monthly reports? Do you send quarterly reports? What do you do for that partnership with the city? Because it's my understanding with both of the last two programs, they're not funded by the school district. they're
Right.
funded
Right.
with the city of Sioux Falls.
Right.
And the school district is kind of this middleman, liaison,
Sure.
pass-through program. I know staff and myself met with them a couple weeks ago, and I said, "What's your role in this?" And they said, "We're here to identify and give access to the program
Sure.
through our kids." And as a middle school and elementary school mom, I know I get the text message that says, "Come join this great program and do this." But there's never any mention of the city with any of it. It sounds as if it's a school district program and really not a city-funded program. And I know we fund very, very little of your budget for both
Yeah.
of the last.
Yeah, it's about 4%.
But I think the perception for many in the community is that this is an after-school program done through the school district,
Right.
which I don't know if that matters, and I don't want to split hairs here, but I'm just curious as far as the reporting mechanisms to the city, as far as if there's any collaboration, if the city is saying, yeah, hey, can you reach out to this school, or can you do this, or how, just talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure, sure. Well, as far as the communication about the partnership, we do promote that. When we list our mission partners, and I had a slide that showed that, and on our website, we always have the city as a prominent partner in that, because you are, first of all. Secondly, as far as the reporting mechanisms, and so we track everything we do. I can tell you right now, we served almost 3,700 kids in January alone downtown. We had 3,700 visits. We can provide daily attendance logs, anything like that you guys request. We already do a lot of those forms and that data for the United Way. Since I've been here a little over 3.5 years, I've never seen a request from the city specific to that. I think it's been a while since we've been through this review process, and I'm glad to share anything that you'd like to see based on that.
All right, thank you. And I would say, with that, depending on the direction we go in any of these, I think that is absolutely key, that we need some sort of, I'm not alluding to anything, I'm just saying accountability for the citizens' dollars that are being spent. And so that would be very important to have that, as well as a contract in place. As far as, here's our expectations, are you meeting, are you exceeding, what's your role, what are you trying to do? And I think that's really important for us as elected officials, as well as the citizens, to know that we're being responsible with their money in meeting those needs, and that we're getting something back for it, meaning keeping kids on the straight and narrow, making sure they're academically being successful, finishing school, getting a job. Those things are important. And so I think that's definitely an area that we can improve on.
I agree. And from our perspective, any of the organizations that have United Way funding, 21st Century Grant funding, we're very used to having those numbers and things, so not a problem.
Thank you.
So a couple of questions
Any
from the
other
chair
questions?
then, and we'll move on. Gaps. Talk about what are if this city funding went away, and you just said it's 4% of your total overall budget. If the city funding went away, what happens? What might you theorize would be some of the result of that?
Well, that's a great question. One I try not to think about too hard in the middle of the night. But what I would say is, one of the biggest struggles we have is that our transportation costs keep going up. And so any kind of increase that the school district gives, they mirror that with the other nonprofits that they work. And so if we weren't to receive the city funding, and I would say, 2/3 of that helps with transporting the kids from these middle schools back home, we'd have to look for other sources of funding, whether it be a private donation, or somewhere else. But, we already, as far as our budget goes, from grants and from fundraising, it's over 30%. And so I would say from that perspective, we're already working really hard on that front. So it would be tough. Not saying impossible, but we try to figure something out because the need's so great. But we would certainly appreciate your continued funding.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Again, appreciate your work in putting this together and spending some time with us this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Again, moving along, and we're way behind schedule. I apologize, but we're going to do this right rather than fast. And so I just invite you to hang tight with me here. We're on to the active generations. Mr. Benega, welcome.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank you. Again, Gerald Bannigiff, Active Generations. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we've been in a partnership for actually 50 years. Our organization is celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and Active Generations was way back when called the Berglund Senior Center, and it was about a block north from here, and actually the city of Sioux Falls bought the first building, if you will, that we were in, and we've had that relationship now for 50 years, and we're appreciative of that. Ironically, the new building that we're talking about on the east side of town will expand our organization by at least 50% in the next 3 years. We operate as a multi-purpose community center, if you will, for older adults specifically. In fact, in prior conversations with prior city council members, that's the way it has been explained, and the relationship has continued with that kind of definition, if you will. We have 9 programs that we support, and you need to be aware of the fact that all 9 of those programs either get some state or federal funding or some United Way funding. And the state and federal funding requires a local match. That's how this program got started, and it's basically used for the nutrition program, if you will. We serve, frankly, the fastest growing segment of the population, and that population will continue to grow that way for the next 15 years for sure. Last year, we served over 12,000 people. We've had dramatic growth. When we moved out to the facility that we're in currently, which the city helps support, we were serving 750 people a year, and now we're serving 12,000. And our mission is to keep people independent and, frankly, active in the community, but more importantly, staying out of more expensive programs. And I don't like to pick on long-term care because they're a great partner of ours in everything we do. But frankly, the next alternative, if we weren't providing some of those services to keep people independent, would be the fact that they would be in a more expensive program that, frankly, is not their first choice. The other thing that I need to make you aware of those 9 programs, we can't commingle funds. That means that if the nutrition program has an exceptional year financially, I can't use those dollars to support the adult daycare program or some of the other programs that we have. The other thing is that the state and federal grants that we use in certain programs can't not be means tested. That means that the requirement from the feds is if in fact someone participates but is unable to pay, quote, their fair share, we do not turn those individuals away. And frankly, that's how United Way supports us, is to help pay for those individuals who frankly aren't able to pay. Again, we talked about cash match or local match, and that's the reason for the relationship. I'll just highlight some of our programs and talk a little bit about how many people we're serving in each one of those. I didn't bring along a lot of pictures. I just brought some handouts because that's what we're here for, is the financial piece. Our activities and fitness facility is, frankly, what you might consider a multi-purpose center, and in some cases it's similar to the rec centers that you've developed. And I was part of in some cases. Kenny Anderson and Bob Jameson, frankly, started that conversation to build the facility that we're in currently, Kenny Anderson Sr. They went to Sioux City, looked at what Sioux City was providing and owned by the city, operated by the city, came back and said, in Kenny Anderson Sr.'s words, this is a disgrace. When we were across the street at the Berglund facility, we need to do something different. And that's where the facility got developed. Sioux City actually has two community organizations. Rapid City has 2 community organizations. Lincoln has, I think, 6 or 7 the last time I was down there. I think Omaha has something like 8 or 9, all owned and operated by the city. Frankly, we can do it less expensive than you can do it, and that relationship has been very positive. Our adult daycare program is similar to child daycare, except it's for older adults who are at risk with dementia, people like Rex, people with dementia who aren't able to be, frankly, at home by themselves. And the biggest benefit of the people that we serve is not always the person that's in our program, but the caregiver who's responsible for that. Caregiving is the biggest single next concern that communities have and the country has, frankly, about with everybody with 2 income households, who's going to take care of the caregiver who's typically someone, a female, who's in their 40s to 50 years old, is responsible for that particular person. They still work full-time. In fact, 65% of them work full-time. The other 15% work part-time. Numbers have been reported that up to 20% of the caregivers have had to quit their jobs because they can't stay in the workforce because of the stress of caregiving, because that is a 24/7 responsibility. We do a small employment program for people who, frankly, want to go back to work or need to go back to work for financial reasons. Again, it's a relatively small program, but we do one-on-one counseling. We also spend part of our week each week at the Hope facility here downtown to be able to help people through that transition of learning how to fill out resumes, using a computer, all those kinds of things. So there's an employment benefit. Excuse me. Caregiver Outreach, we, again, are financially supported by the state on this particular grant, but there's no match required. Again, caregiver is an emphasis in the federal responsibilities, and the reason that it's, frankly, 100% supported by the state is the fact that they see this as the biggest next wave, if you will, of issues. We talked briefly about nutrition. We serve both congregate and home-delivered meals or Meals on Wheels. Last week we had and I didn't plug this in the paper, I was thinking about doing it that way, but we had the largest single day of home-delivered meals in the city of Sioux Falls in one day. We had 600 meals served just to keep people independent at home because they weren't able to leave. One of the reasons why we're so successful, I guess I would say, is, and I made this note on the bottom of our sheet, is we have 1,800 volunteers that help us with all the programs that we offer. And frankly, we couldn't do what we do for what the cost is of what we do it at. We have 3,200 members. And again, certain state and federal grants require us not to charge membership fees if we offer a program that doesn't, frankly, get those grants. We serve an additional 10,350 people that are not members of our organization because of the fact that they can't financially either do it or, frankly, the grant requirement says they don't have to be a member. Units of service, every one of those units of services that we're talking about in each of those programs up above is defined differently, but we serve, in our estimation, 318,000 units of service every year to 13,550 people this year is what our estimate will be. Just briefly want to talk about SHINE, which is Medicare Part D. That's, again, a state and federal program. There's no cash match. We go through and review prescription drug programs for individuals who are 65 years of age and older and offer them alternative plans. You're going to be shocked at this number, but because of those 2,750 people that we serve that are non-members, last year we saved $3.3 million in prescription cost in our region alone, and we had one person who saved $230,000 by themselves. And I can't give you details for obvious reasons. We do Workers on Wheels, which is kind of a partnership with not only with United Way, but it helps the city because we're picking up and providing transportation to people who want to stay in their home but can't do all the chore services. They can't do the Rake the Town event that we're involved with, help with light bulbs, just minor home repairs, but they're staying in their home. We're in the process right now of doing tax aid. We're going to do 2,500 tax returns for individuals who are low to moderate income or disabled, all again done by volunteers. If you want to talk about the financial piece, which is the bottom of that particular handout that I gave you, again, we're getting some state and federal grants to the tune of about $1.3 million. Our local match for the nutrition program is 10%. That's less than what you're giving us, but we're working out the rest of it when we can. United Way is about not quite 8% of our budget. Fees and donations. Again, we qualify or classify donations as someone who participates with the program and gives us whatever they can afford to give us, because again, it's not means tested. So unfortunately, we call that a donation rather than a service fee. The only exception is that we do have a small contract with the adult daycare program that we have with the VA, and the VA reimburses us full cost. Our annual budget is going to be more than $3 million. The city gives us about $60,000, so it's about 2% of our budget. I'd be happy to answer questions. I told you it was going to be dry and boring, so I'll catch you up with your speed, if you will.
Thank you. Little different demographic than our first two presenters, so I appreciate it, Mr. Benega. Questions from the committee? Councilor Starr.
Thank you. I think Councilor Rolfing, we found our snack, so we can be a little behaved in the afternoon, so we don't have to hang out with the teenagers. Exactly. Well, the first thing that stands out is, did the $59,928 come from some specific way, or how did we get to an unround number like that?
Let's just say that is not what we asked for. That's what we received, and we're happy about that. It's been flat for as long as I don't remember very long, so that's not a good response. I think it's been at that level for like 8 to 10 years, and I cannot tell you why it's that amount of money, frankly. So we've asked in the past to have some inflationary factor, but I can't tell you why.
Not that big a deal, or just it's interesting like most things.
No, I understand.
I was going to say that it keeps grandmas and grandpas off the street, the program that you do, because we spend a lot of time with our younger kids in the programs, but you know, all joking aside, it really does. It provides activities during your services, provide activities. The amount of savings that we always get caught up in, do we save city money, do we save state money, are we saving federal money? But the bottom line, you can take it out of this pocket or you can take it out of this pocket, and when we save taxpayers money and allow people to stay in their homes longer, it saves money for all taxpayers and all citizens that are paying taxes. So I mean, to try to differentiate that, whether it's our role or whether, you know, the state should come up with it, this works. You know, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and I agree, obviously, wholeheartedly with you, but I also will tell you that's the program of choice, because people really do want to stay in their homes. I bet if you survey the people in this room right now and ask them about what their choice would be when they get to that piece of life where they're going to have to be more dependent on someone else, the last place that they're going to want to go is some sort of institutional care. I'll give you an example. Our adult daycare program, the average person is in that program for 15 months. If they were in another setting, the taxpayers would pay $3.3 million more per year if we took the 75 people we serve times what we are reimbursed versus the delay of going into long-term care.
Which saves you money down the street at the county, it saves our state money, and it definitely saves that. We were talking earlier today about, I was meeting with a couple of department heads during the course of the day, and it was the same thing. Well, the state should reimburse us more because it's their fair part of the program. And, well, why doesn't the agency pay part? But the bottom line is the service has to be provided, and the money's not there anywhere else that we have to provide the service. So if we take money away in one spot, then you have to cut services in another spot. This money doesn't just magically appear. There isn't there aren't the donors in the community to make up that. And we have a very generous community. We saw that with our United Way dollars, setting another record and the number of things that our citizens do respond. But this is a place where we could make a huge difference and really leverage our tax dollars or our citizens' tax dollars to provide some great services.
I'll give you another example. As you were talking, what we participated in this fall was that the penitentiary decided not to do the Scoop It program. We immediately, within 3 days, had 160 people call us wanting to know if they could coordinate with volunteers to be able to have somebody come and scoop their driveways, scoop their sidewalks, not get city tickets. You get the revenue for that, by the way, I don't. But anyway, the real issue is every one of them wanted to stay in their home, but there was no way that they could maintain that independence by trying to do that. So the state, unfortunately, passed that on to whomever would pick it up. They didn't have an alternative. And we partnered a little bit with, frankly, the Helpline Center for the phone calls, but we had to coordinate the volunteers. We still don't have enough volunteers, but there's 160 people that would have probably not had the opportunity to stay home or afford to stay in their facility because they couldn't afford to do what would be natural for all of us to do.
Good. Other questions from the committee? So just to clarify, Mr. Benning, I wanted to make sure I understand the match for the city funds that you take, the $59,928 right now, as I agree, odd number, goes primarily to your nutrition program, but the local match for that is required to be 10%, and you said that the number we give you doesn't equal that 10%. Can you talk about that just a little bit more?
I sure can. And the way that the match is figured is a little weird, but if you take our total program cost of $1.6 million, you reduce it by the $700,000 that we get from donations and service fees, minus the United Way dollars for people who can't afford to make any donations, you come up with a net number. That net number is actually about $800,000. So we need to match 10% of that $800,000 locally to be able to continue the state and federal grant program. The number that we used last year, and it'll be bigger or a little different next year, is the 76,000, but it's probably closer to 80,000.
Madam Chairman, I think that's where we came up with a weird figure one time back in our early years here.
That it's a
came up
percentage
with
of
that exact amount that we needed, and we haven't done anything. So we really should be looking at, my quick math was 750, so we should be maybe closer to 75,000 to get that 10%.
Right. Well, and his handout says about 76,000, and as Mr. Benning is saying, it's going to go up. The need continues to increase.
Well, our meal costs obviously are going to go up, our labor costs are going to go up, and the number of people we serve are going to go up.
Right.
So I don't see that changes. And again, as I mentioned once before, this is the fastest growing segment of our population, and it's going to stay that way for the next 15 years.
So the question I've been asking the other organizations is, so let's imagine the city money goes away. What happens to this program? What are your alternatives?
Alternatives are to do some of the things that we don't want to do. One of them that is done in other parts of the country, I'll be very blunt about this, is they start putting people on waiting lists and then serve the people in a numerical order when someone drops out of the program, usually because of relocation, death, whatever, medical issues. The other thing that I can tell you is that 60% of the people who are on the nutrition program will have 5 visits to the hospital every year. So there's another cost savings if we can keep them healthy and eating correctly. But anyway, back to the delay or whatever of the individuals. That is what's happening in some of the bigger cities currently, is they are putting people on waiting list. We have not had to do that yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate you putting the numbers together, spending some time with us this afternoon. Really
No problem.
do.
Thank you
so
for the
much.
invitation. Good luck.
Thanks. All right, moving along, we're going to downtown Sioux Falls. And we talked about him possibly being late, and he's not here yet.
We are going to move to Southeastern Behavioral Health.
All right, so we're going to skip over downtown Sioux Falls. We'll come back to them when they get here. We're going to Southeastern Behavioral Health, the PATH program, and now we're back on time. Look at me. Southeastern Behavioral Health, please, come on.
Group of us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You get a whole group of us. How's that?
That's awesome. Just introduce yourselves
And you
and
know what? We don't need it if they're okay. I mean, we have it. So.
what do you need?
We have a PowerPoint, but we don't need it if you're okay. with
That's
that.
fine. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Chris Graham, the CEO of Southeastern Behavioral Health Care, and thank you for having us here this afternoon. Since 2004 and maybe even beyond, you have done the match for our PATH grant. And PATH is a homeless program that is a grant that's awarded to the Division of Social Services, Department of Behavioral Health, that passes through to us with a certain portion of money that's allocated to us. And right now, that money is only identified through the state to come to community mental health centers. So that's why we have that money with us. The grant, since I researched back and looked to see if our funding has ever changed, and it hasn't. So every year, the state gives us $164,365. The match to the city has been $54,788 approximately every year for us to provide that program to the homeless. So it's a total amount of $219,153 is what we operate on for that program. PATH, in the scope of work for the grant, it gives specifics on what can we do with that money. And number one, it's to serve individuals that are 18 years or older with SMI, severely mentally ill. And so we do not do outreach to all homeless. It's for a very specific population that we can serve. We need to provide at least a one-time rental and a security deposit assistance. We provide mental health and outreach services to individuals that qualify, and those services need to be provided by an outreach worker. As an agency, we provide psychiatric care for all of those individuals that qualify for our program, but we receive no funding for that portion, and United Way does partner with us to provide psychiatric services. So with that information, I'd like to turn it over to Kim Hansen, who actually runs the PATH program.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Madam Chair, before we
Yes.
do that, do we have your PowerPoint up? Because one of the things that we do as part of this, it does end up going out on CityLink, and people get a chance, so intermittently, so that way you wouldn't be on camera the whole time you're talking either. So that's the part I appreciate.
There's a
of it
sales
as much,
pitch,
so-
Counselor Starr,
Yes,
nicely
exactly.
done.
Trying to find, so if you go through the PowerPoint, even though you're not using it, it allows people who are watching from home or go back to the recorded version of getting a chance to take a look. Yep,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
I'll just move ahead if I can.
absolutely.
And I'll run the PowerPoint.
Okay,
Good luck.
All right. Welcome, Kim.
thank you. I'm going to talk about some of the expectations of the PATH outreach workers as far as the grant is concerned. Collaboration with community agencies and leaders and other supportive services, identifying target individuals, connecting and engaging target individuals with appropriate services, direct assistance in obtaining and maintaining safe housing. We have trained staff on SOAR, which is SSI or SSDI outreach access recovery process, and referrals for substance use disorder treatment or other supports as needed. So our homeless outreach program has 5.5 full-time staff who provide direct services to homeless individuals in the Sioux Falls community who are diagnosed with a serious mental illness. The definition of a serious mental illness is an individual who has been psychiatrically hospitalized or has been on psychotropic medications for more than a year. Individuals must also have some sort of functional limitation in getting services, providing for themselves, social problems, etc. Most of our clients have a thought disorder such as schizophrenia or a mood disorder such as anxiety, depression, or bipolar disorder. And then approximately 80% of our homeless people also have a co-occurring substance use disorder. Southeastern provides access to psychiatric services, employment services, a benefit specialist, chemical dependency treatment, and housing resources. And then we also do community outreach to the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, the VOA Veterans Outreach Center, the Sioux Falls Ministry Center, the Glory House, and the Arch. I'm going to talk about some of our 2017 calendar year statistics. 567 individuals were screened through our PATH program last year. Of those individuals screened, 124 were newly opened clients into our program. And then at any given time throughout the calendar year, we were working with 187 individuals. 176 attained psychiatric services through our agency. 24 attained permanent housing. 39 obtained income assistance, and 14 got jobs through our employment connection. And then also we provided 2,089 case management services. Southeastern is providing more outreach services to the emergency shelters and halfway houses in the community than in previous years. And we do have a full-time benefits specialist who can do expedited SSI and or SSDI applications for individuals who are disabled. And now I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Tower, who is one of our care coordinators.
Great, thank you. Melissa, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. So I serve as one of the care team coordinators at our 5th Street location, and I'm also the assistant clinical director, so I kind of oversee all of our adult programming. Once these clients have kind of met that housing need in the PATH program, they can roll over into our care program. And so in our care program, we offer the continued psychiatric services, so they have access to our psychiatry services through that program. We also provide medication management, so working very closely with the nursing staff, with the psychiatrists, and then delivering that medication if that's what that individual is needing for that level of support. We also provide case management to those folks, and that varies on the level of recovery that they are at. So some of our folks we see every week and deliver meds every week. Some we see every other week. Some we see only when they see the doctor, and some just like to check in with us just to make sure things are still going okay. So we'll provide that continued service to anybody who's wanting that and still meets that severely mentally ill criteria that they meet in the PATH program. So we provide that service. We also have a therapeutic component in the care program, so we offer individual therapy to those in that program as well as a variety of groups. So right now we have an anger management group that's going. We have what's called a WRAP, which is the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, focused on kind of some safety planning and symptom management. We have that group, and we have a DBT program that is also running for those folks. In addition to that, they also have access to what we call our Clubhouse program, and that is kind of our socialization piece for those with the severe mental illness. So they're opened from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, and those individuals can come and get lunch, play cards, play games. There's a variety of psychosocial groups. Learn some different social skills and problem-solving skills. They also do some community outreach. They've done some volunteering in the community at the Humane Society and the food pantry, and then they do various outings in the community as well through that program. And that's one piece that the clients really love to hold on to, so it's been very successful. Continued CD services would also be offered through the CARE program, through our recovery team. So we are certified to provide a couple of lower levels of outpatient CD therapy or chemical dependency therapy. And then we also have a variety of groups that we do, as well as chemical dependency assessments in the community and for our clients. And then finally, they also have access to Employment Connection. And so in that program, they will help them through the whole process of finding employment. They will do everything from writing a resume to doing follow along 6 months through they're getting the job and starting to learn the ropes of that. So they'll help them through the whole process, as little or as much as that client needs. So once they've completed the PATH program, they have access to continued services through CARE if that's something that they would like to do. So with that, we'd open up for any questions that you have for us.
Great. Thank all three of you. Questions from the committee? Councilor Erickson.
As I understand it, this is a federal match, correct? So the only ones, based on if the city discontinued this, the only ones that would be eligible to do this is those that are...
A community mental health center.
And there's no other ones.
Right. So
you are a person for this.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Filling a need that otherwise would go unmet, and that match is key as well. Okay, that was my main question.
Sure.
Other questions from the committee? Councilor Starr?
Yes, quickly. So basically, is this under community development, or are we under health?
Health.
Currently under
Sorry,
the
I'm
health.
in the wrong place. That's okay. Do we have an agreement? One of the things that we've been trying to wrap our arms around as a council is where do we have an agreement in place for the services that we receive, and then the supervision or the reporting that goes with that as part of our responsibility? So I guess that's my main question.
No, we don't have a formalized agreement. I don't think we ever have. But that's something we could do federally to mandate it. We are, because of the state oversight, we have a lot of rules and regulations that they follow. So reporting-wise, quarterly we meet with the Department of Health and give you all the updated statistics and what's happening with the program. So that's what...
No. I think that the reporting's going on. We're just, for some of us, we were trying to figure out what PATH was and where this grant was coming from, and it's not something we deal with on ever, other than at budget time, and we see it, and it's a match, and we get more than we put in, and you provide an excellent service to our community and a lot of people who are underserved and wouldn't be served if this program went away, as well as the federal money that would go away that we couldn't access for a small portion of the overall grant. So the reporting's being done to the state, and that's where more to reiterate what I'm saying. So thank you very much. And, it may be one of those things that we take a look at is if we want the same reporting that you give to the state that wouldn't add any additional burden to what you're doing, that if we just receive that part of it, that might take care of it in the big picture of what we're doing. I'm not sure exactly how we end up doing that, but.
And you actually, we actually give that quarter reporting right here locally to the Department of Health. So you should have access to all of that and we could make sure you get it too, because what we send them, we could send so that you can keep track of statistics and what we're doing. So we have no problem with that either. If you would like to have that, that's not a problem for us, or we can make sure that you get that. How's that? Whatever works.
Madam Chair. And I did, when Councilor Starr was asking about the contract, I saw Alicia in the back saying, yes, we have a contract in place. So there's something in place that we have that she was discussing.
What happens when you sit behind me?
So she was referencing it, and so we do have something in place for that, but I think that we can always make those better.
Right. Mr. Bixler, are you up to clarify something for us? Yes. Microphone, please.
The agreement has already come through the council on the consent agenda in January, I believe.
That's right. That's right. Okay, good. Other questions from the committee? Then one more question from me, or a couple questions from me. It's federal grant. Do you apply for this grant every year, or is it just kind of a package deal? You're going to get it?
I believe the state applies for it every year or every 2 years.
So it's like a block grant. They give you a piece of it. Other places in the state get pieces of it as well.
Right.
And then can you tell us what percentage of your overall budget this is?
Well,
piece of it, maybe?
We overall have over a $14 million budget, and so it's a small percent of our budget. But very necessary, just so, and we as an agency do subsidize this program because there isn't enough, anywhere from 75 to 100,000 every year we put into the program to make sure we can meet the needs of the individuals.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I think she said that 219,000 was the PATH budget
Right.
Yeah, the total.
total, and so 57% would be approximately 25%.
Right, exactly, of the PATH program itself, yes. The other ones we've been comparing to overall budgets, and so I just wanted to kind of make that same comparison. When you say, sorry, rabbit hole, but when you say that you, as an agency, are subsidizing part of the programming, how then are you funded overall? Is it United Way? We talked about that a little bit. Can you just remind us what are those other sources of your funding?
Because we are about 85% Medicaid, so we're state and federal funded, private insurance, donations, so we have a lot of funding streams that come into us, but basically Medicaid, Medicare funded agency.
Great. Any other questions from the committee? Again, thank you so much for the work that you went to put this together. We appreciate you spending the time with us and helping us understand this a little better. We know there's some cracks in how we run this, and so we're going to get it figured out. But thank you again so much for being here.
And we do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump back. Mr. Batchelor's here. Let's go back to downtown Sioux Falls.
Good evening. Thank you for accommodating me. Appreciate it. Okay, so first I'll tell you just a little bit about the organization and then zero in on what we use the funds for and the impact that we have with those funds. So our mission is to lead downtown through diverse experiences, economic growth, and with a healthy environment. And we do that in large part by attracting people to downtown, connecting, growing, and celebrating the downtown community. Our programs, primarily, we're trying to put a bullseye on downtown. There's a lot of organizations that do similar sort of things. Citywide, we're sort of a combined CVB and chamber, if you will, for specifically the downtown area. We also do cleaning and beautification projects. Those typically fall under the business improvement district's charge. This is what we're trying to achieve. Activity downtown, accessibility, growing the network of relationships downtown, enhancing the charm and appeal, bringing public awareness about downtown, and increasing the economic activity. So a brief look at our budget. The yellow is a good portion of that is what the city funding goes towards. If you break that down specifically, city funding provides about 20% of DTSF's budget. And per the agreement, in particular, these are the 4 areas that we are to deliver on. It's vitality, it's creating a positive image, providing leadership and oversight, and then we also have the 2025 downtown plan and delivering on the action items in there. There's about 33 of them. Some of them are near term, some of them are quick action steps, others are more long term. Those might include things like identifying opportunities for more pet amenities downtown, increasing the livability of downtown, providing a year-round atmosphere downtown with events and programming. And so here's the first slide of 2 with the resource allocation. This is how it breaks down with what those funds go towards. And a lot of it has to do with supporting staff time. Promoting year-round atmosphere, that is a big one. And the way we come up with this is we have a time allocation matrix that we use. And one category is the city contract. Another is the business improvement district. We also have a contract with the Government Services Administration for the 12th Street Plaza. And the last category is DTSF General or Other. And so when we do that time allocation, it needs to equal 100%. That way, we know there's no double dipping going on, that when we allocate time, that it is specific to the purpose of the city contract. And so, based on what we've done for 2017, the city contract is for $165,000. We figured our time allocation costs to be $187,489. I'm sorry, easy for me to say. And so when it comes to the return on investment, additionally, you look at the impact that we have. We use the American for the Arts report. They just recently revised that. I believe the previous one was released in 2012. And so we bring in over 100,000 visitors to downtown with our events and with our promotions. And based on the metric in the 2017 report, we figure we're bringing in $3.45 million in economic activity for downtown. And if you translate that, 2% of that would be about $69,000, which goes towards the sales tax roll. Our efforts also help bolster the property values in downtown. I don't have a clear measurable for that, but it's something that I could certainly put some research into and try to figure that out if you're interested. Basically, great places don't happen by accident. You know, the money that the city provides for DTSF is an investment in the future. Downtown is one of the greatest recruitment tools that the city has for bringing in a talented workforce, for helping attract new businesses to Sioux Falls. You know, it's also the identity of the city. People want to come downtown to really get to know what Sioux Falls is about. And the other last point I'll make is that we have one of the best collection of locally owned businesses, I would say, and people that do business downtown. They're keeping that money in the community longer than if they were to do business with a national retailer, a chain type of business. And so we help keep that revenue in the city, which has a positive impact on the city's bottom line with its tax rolls. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much, appreciate it. Questions from the committee? Yes, Councilor Erickson?
Thank you. And maybe this is for us. I can't remember why this was one that was looked at being cut. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting why, I guess, just amongst ourselves.
Correct.
Right, we
Was it
had
because of
questions.
the-
We had questions about whether there was a contract. We also had questions, I believe, as a committee about, and I'd ask Mr. Batchelor to answer this, talk about the bid money, how it's handled through the city, that it's literally a pass-through, and then this is in addition to that. That
Right,
was one of our
not this
questions.
committee, but I mean, when it was proposed to us from the administration, I guess I can't remember why this was one that we were looking at cutting. I mean, I will tell you personally, we come downtown when there's events, and then we shop and we eat and maybe have a cocktail, and so your 2%, I think you're being very conservative on, because there's additionally tourism tax, there's alcohol tax, there's those extras that are on much of what we do if we come downtown. And so I think it's a very conservative number for that. I just was trying to wrap my mind around why this was one of the ones on the chopping block, so to speak, not from this committee, but from the administration. And I know that there was money that was being pooled and being held in reserve, and I don't know if that's why. Maybe Bix, is that why you're standing there?
Bixler, you want to give
Help
us
me
some
out.
clarification?
The administration did not suggest to make any cuts to downtown Sioux Falls. That was just a list that was on the large list that we had of all those third-party nonprofits.
That we wanted to identify. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. I couldn't remember where we were with that. So thank you for that. And I mean, this is one that, while we're not treating folks, and, we've heard a lot about services and programs over the last time, this is, driving people to downtown to, they might come downtown and say, oh, I'd like to live down here. Look how great this is. There's places for my dog and whatever else as far as eating and playing. And so especially when the Levitt Shell comes downtown, I think that will be another driver for events and functions downtown. So thank you for your presentation. Thanks for the information. I think that good things are happening downtown.
Good, thank you. Councilor Rolfing.
Yeah, Joe, we all realize that downtown is important, and we love our downtown. We want to make it better all the time too. One of the things that we're trying to do here is put matrices to, what the benefit the city does derive from the 165,000, is it, that we give to you on an annual basis? Yeah, 165. I would encourage you to maybe use some of that computer strength that you've got in your office with some of the things that are down there to come up with some matrices that show us exactly, as much as possible, close as possible, what the benefit is. It does make it easier to, shall I say, justify a return on investment kind of thing that we as a city need to always do with the money that we give to different organizations. We think it's important. I think it's important personally, but I encourage you to, get a little bit more numbers on it.
Okay.
Other questions from the committee? Okay, so then do talk to us about, just by way of information, how the bid works that also helps fund downtown Sioux Falls.
So there is a state statute that we have to follow with the bid and make sure that the funds are being used only for the items that the state statute allows. Typically what that entails is we have a clean and green team that keeps downtown clean and beautiful. Bid funds go to support that. We also have marketing efforts that bid funds help support as well. There are a couple of events. The events that are free to the public are financed under the bid, so that would be Parade of Lights and Moonlight Movies. Moonlight Movies are a summertime movie series at Faywick Park. And we do some, I mentioned marketing, an example of that would be some of the collateral that goes along that you'll see downtown. We've got the directories that help with the wayfinding. We have street pole banners as well. It helps pay for the upkeep of those, the cost per labor to hang those, replace those. And let's see, we have financed transportation efforts in the past. An example would be we had horse and carriage rides that were financed by the bid. Another example, last year, a portion of the funding for the trolley was handled by the bid. And so we have yet to finalize the budget for the bid for 2018, but that's pretty typical. It usually gets finalized in March. And so one of the things we're looking to increase marketing efforts in particular for this year.
Great, that's good. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you for taking time to come hang out with us and to pull all this information together for us. We appreciate it. And
sorry I was late.
That's really okay. We were ready. You kept us on time for a little while there. It was really good. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Mr. Dezek is here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dean Dezek. I'm the interim president of the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. I'm going to start out my presentation and comments stating our mission statement, and I also want to take you back historically, you know, some of the things that we've accomplished at the foundation. And then I'll take you into initiatives, programs, and then we'll finish up with funding and be able to address any questions in that manner. But really, the mission statement of our organization is to collaboratively create quality economic growth and workforce development in the Sioux Falls MSA and improve the quality of life. The foundation was created in 1954 by some very far-sighted business leaders. You know, one of the first successes of the foundation was the location of the Eros Data Center. It was really a game changer for the community. And then after that, in the early 70s, was the creation of the first Sioux Empire Development Park right around the airport. And since then, the foundation has built out 9 industrial parks, and then most recently, Foundation Park. The foundation is also one of the founding members of the Forward Sioux Falls program, and that was formed in 1988 in conjunction with the Chamber, and that has been a tremendously successful program. We're in our 7th campaign and creating thousands of jobs as well as economic growth. Moving on into the 1990s was the formation of Lincoln County and Minnehaha County Economic Development. And this was really instrumental to really build up and reinforce the surrounding communities of Sioux Falls, because those are the folks that come into our community and spend money as well. In 1994, the Spirit of Sioux Falls Award was created. And that's really a prestigious award given out to that one individual that really exemplifies economic development work in the community. And then in 1999 was the creation of the South Dakota Technology Business Center, which is now the Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship. And then moving on, the creation just recently of the USD Discovery District, really a modern research park that really is going to advance our community as far as biotech is concerned. And then last but not least, most recently announced in 2015, was the creation of Foundation Park, the state's largest industrial park, 820 acres served by rail, which I honestly feel will be a game changer now and into the future. Let me just touch upon some of the pillars of the Development Foundation. Really, business attraction, number one. We are out selectively recruiting business to the community, trying to not only recruit any type of project, but really those projects that bring value and higher paying jobs. Business retention, really going out and assisting local businesses, retaining them to stay within the community. Business expansion, encouraging business to grow and being able to partner with them and to assist in any way possible. Entrepreneurial development, helping foster growth through resources, through those startup companies. And then workforce development. We all hear about the need of workforce, really to expand the availability of a skilled labor within our community. Now, as far as our office collaborating with the City of Sioux Falls, as well as the Governor's Office of Economic Development, I really explain that as the three-legged stool of the way that we approach economic development collaboratively. It really cannot stand without one or two of the other legs. So we are tied at the hip with the city as well as the state, and we all play unique roles in that manner. We all bring something very unique to this setup. And one of the programs that I'd like to point out that we work on together, and we've done this for many years, it's jointly doing what we call BR&E visits. business retention and expansion visits, really getting out within the community and understanding what makes up the dynamics of our community from a business standpoint. Last year, we made over 80 personal visits to companies, and that goal will be expanded this year. And really just kind of give you an overview of what's accomplished in those is it's going down and sitting with the president as well as any directors within the company and doing a formal survey of really finances within their organization, technology, what they like, what they dislike about city services, what's their impression in terms of how we're doing, and also talk about state programs and local programs that may benefit. We're also trying to uncover opportunities when they're going to grow and expand so that we can play a part there, but really trying to retain that business. All of that information goes into a centralized database that we collect that information. We're able to trend and report on it and be able to report to leadership with that information. And then talking a little bit about how we host companies and how we work together to manage those companies that are looking for entering into our marketplace. And that's something that's done very strategically, making sure that we have all of the resources at our disposal, utilizing all community members that have like personalities or skill sets of that company. And that's something that when we work with companies, it takes anywhere from 6 months, a year, 2 years. We're working on projects that are 3 years old to recruit those businesses. So it takes time and diligence to do that. Let me just talk a little bit about how the foundation differentiates itself from the city and really some of the programs that we do, some of the funding that the city offers us that really helps. I'm going to start with workforce development, one of the hot topics out there today. Just within the last year and a half, the foundation was tasked with really being the point of the spear, if you will, as far as workforce development is concerned. Hire an executive level person to really collaborate throughout the community as far as workforce is concerned. One of the first initiatives that was accomplished was SiouxFalls.com. And that's a talent portal that is really defined as live, work, and play, and utilized for companies trying to recruit people to Sioux Falls. People would want to understand what Sioux Falls is all about, testimonials, videos, really a comprehensive website to really answer all questions. And then also something else that is presently being worked on within the last couple of years that was started was Sioux Falls Thrive, headed up by Candy Hansen, and that is really impacting those kids from K through 12. We talk about that silver bullet of workforce, there really isn't one, but Thrive is really meant to set the stage with the kids K through 12, really consolidate resources throughout the community and be impactful to that group. And then lastly, as far as workforce is concerned, just the most recent initiative that we put out, we use the acronym WIN, and this is an acronym that stands for Workforce Information Now. And this is an electronic publication that just went out on January 30th. We're going to do 10 publications a month or a year. And this is really geared towards those companies that are looking for solutions. Everybody talks about problems within the workforce community here, but this is really geared towards offering solutions, offering data, offering information. We've partnered with Jody Schwan and her services. It's interactive. We have a spotlight industry video every month that we offer this. Kurt and Val Loudenbach stepped up and were the first. But they have a great video within that publication to really talk about how have they been successful, how have they adopted a diversity into their workforce and have done very well. So I would encourage you to check that out. We've been looking at analytics since it was just put out a few weeks ago. Analytics are off the chart. I mean, it's been very well received, and we expect it to get better. Outbound recruitment from an economic development standpoint. This is an area that I've worked in pretty intimately over the last 7-8 years. And really, whether it be trade shows, we budget for up to 3 trade shows a year. I've traveled the country visiting with real estate folks as well as brokers, really trying to get the message out about what Sioux Falls has to offer from a business perspective as well as quality of life. I think we're the best kept secret once you get outside of the Midwest. You get out to the West and East Coast, and you know, they can't even find us on a map. But once you get people here, this place sells itself. So that's something that that we really work on and try to do a good job with in terms of recruitment. And then also land development. This is really how we've differentiated ourselves, kind of going back to the Aeros days and that first industrial park. The collaboration that we've had to create Foundation Park, the city stepping up with the infrastructure dollars being spent up front, the state stepping up with the Future Funds grant as well as the low interest financing, and then also Forward Sioux Falls. You know, they have a stake in Foundation Park as well. And then naturally, you know, we're the keeper and also have invested in it as well. You see the anchor tenant going up out there on the 54-acre site. They're still shooting for opening the doors in May. Going to see a bunch of rail traffic out there. But I'm very, very confident and adamant that we have a very good pipeline. You're going to see more activity of breaking ground out there in 2018 and as well as moving forward. And then lastly, as far as differentiation, really we've made a strong initiative to really go out and feature ourselves with the site consultants. These are the folks that work with companies to consult with them to locate. And we've actually kept track, and we've been in front of 37 site consultants. I was at a conference this past December in Chicago, and it was called the Site Selector Forum. They had 6 consultants on stage. 5 of those consultants had visited Sioux Falls. So we've done FAM tours over the years, investing dollars to bring those decision makers into Sioux Falls and to be able to showcase our community. Let me just touch upon funding. 2 sources of funding as far as the city is concerned. Going back as far as I can remember, $175,000 that has been funded through the city of Sioux Falls, and for the most part that goes into our operating budget. And really to kind of give you an idea, all of those initiatives that I spoke of, really to support some of those efforts. And then most recently, the other form of funding, Special Projects Fund, sometimes we refer to as a discretionary fund that we've used. This was started in 2012, and that was $100,000. And really it was meant to really help close projects, close deals. And a lot of times when you get in the final stages of negotiation, there's always that something extra in certain deals. 2 of them I'll just point out in terms of where those were utilized. Glanbia Nutritionals, the company up on the northwest side in Park 7, $67,000 to help close that project. That's a fund that's also matched by the Development Foundation, so you have the city funding as well as the foundation matching those dollars. And then Windchill, you know, the anchor tenant in Foundation Park, $117,500 of those discretionary funds used to close that deal. And that went for 500 feet of rail infrastructure that brought the rail right up to their door, so that they could better service their customers. But that's something that we've worked jointly with the city. Each and every time that we work projects, we are very concerned whether we utilize those funds in a very smart manner. But with that being said, I'll open it up for any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Dzik. I appreciate you being here. Questions from the committee? All right. The one question that we really kind of wanted to talk about just briefly, because it is the one that keeps coming up, is that discretionary fund. As you said, it started in 2012, came out of conversations between the administration and the city council. It's not always used. Is that correct? I mean, it isn't always, you don't always use the whole 100,000. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, there's actually been 2 years that it was not used. This is one thing that I really go round and round with our board with in terms of what we call forecasting economic development, and it's kind of like herding cats. From year to year, we're not always sure that those dollars can certainly be used. By all means, it's not something that if we know that it's there, we're just, and the end of the year is coming up, that we're just not going to throw money at a project. I think that's being good stewards of those dollars. There's other years where, you know, we could certainly use more than $100,000 on certain projects. So it's tough to forecast when those dollars come into play.
And then did you tell us, maybe you did, what percentage of the foundation's overall budget is city dollars?
It's right around 10%.
Okay. Okay, anything else from the committee? Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time to prepare this for us and to spend some time with us. We appreciate it, Mr. Dzik. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, one more, folks. Sioux Falls Art Council, please. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Alex Hagan. I'm currently the president of the Sioux Falls Arts Council. Our mission is to enrich the Sioux Falls culture, the economy, and the opportunity by building a stronger and more vibrant arts community. And I think part of the purpose of our appearing before you is to try and answer the question, well, how are we measuring the strength and vibrancy of the community? And obviously there are intangible measures, whether or not you are able to attend arts experiences, music, and so forth. But I'd like to start with our ability to provide you with a very tangible and quantifiable measure, which is the economic impact. We sponsored and collaborated with Americans for the Arts in producing the Arts and Economics Study. This is the 5th one in 2017. It was referenced earlier in the Downtown Sioux Falls presentation. And what this provides to the committee and the public is a real detailed understanding of the dollars and cents return on investment that the arts and cultural sector contribute to the vibrancy and strength of our community. The total annual economic activity is $105 million annually, 3,500 full-time jobs, and $8.6 million in local and state government tax revenue. And I think the most important metric of the data here is that of the $105 million, $20 million is spending from the arts and cultural sector, which catalyzes $80 million in spending from citizens who go and consume those experiences, whether they come from Iowa to come and stay in a hotel, get a reservation at one of our restaurants downtown, whether they come from the south side of Sioux Falls to come to the pavilion to see something and go out for drinks with their friends afterwards. And that's a 4-to-1 leveraging of the money that our arts and cultural sector has. Now, what is the role of the Sioux Falls Arts Council? It is to catalyze the growth and the connection within that arts community. We build bridges to small and large arts groups. We build bridges with artists. And we are, I think, a steward of the arts community in ensuring that programs are being leveraged and directed to underserved communities. The other thing that we do is we raise the quality of life and contribute to the workforce development that you've heard the last two presentations discuss. I'll submit to you that in addition to bringing in workers, retaining workers, and attracting workers, one of the questions that would-be workers are going to ask is, well, what do I do after work? What do I do at 5 o'clock? What do I do if I want to see a concert? Or if I'm interested in painting, not a professional painter, but what do I do? And our organization is intended to provide not only a spotlight to those activities, but to make sure that the arts organizations that do exist are publicized, are accessible, and overall are inclusive to every aspect of our community. So what about money? Well, from the city, we received $47,000 in 2017. And if you look at our annual budgets, that usually ranges between 35 to 46% of our budget each year over the last 5 years. In 2018, we're budgeted for $35,250. We do have a contract with the city, and that is specifically pegged to a work plan that we developed that over the course of the calendar year, we identify what we're going to try and do in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And then we have periodic reports that track those dollars and track the programs that we intend to perform and make sure that we do so. All of this relates to this document, which if you don't have, I suggest you look at, which is the cultural plan from 2014 at Sioux Falls Imagined. It is a tremendously impressive and detailed document that's a blueprint for how we take these organizations and try and, grow together. The one unique thing about this document and our place in it is when other organizations succeed, that's when we succeed. That is the purpose, and that is basically what our role within the cultural plan is. I won't go through the litany of different categories that are set out in this document, but I will tell you that when we look at specific programming or specific partnerships with arts organizations, with downtown Sioux Falls, with the Chamber of Commerce, we peg it to the goals that are in this document. And this is always kind of the blueprint that we go back to. This is the funding sources for 2017. Again, approximately $47,000 in 2017. That's reduced by approximately 25% in 2018. Business donations, we have strong relationships with businesses in the community, including those who provide services and marketing and things like that. For our accomplishments, I want to point this out. In 2016, we increased fundraising from individuals by over 80%. In 2016, we increased fundraising from businesses by over 16%. And so we have a steep haul ahead of us in 2018. We've already leveraged our donors and businesses that we've relied on, and now we need to make up for a reduction in some of the city funding. Our 2017 accomplishments, in addition to fundraising, included hosting what are called Arts Connect Mixers, where creatives in the community get together and discuss a lot of some issues related to professional development, grant opportunities, things like that. We have a revamped website. As I mentioned, we were the partnership with the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study, which gives us these detailed economic return on investment measures. These are other accomplishments in 2017. I want to point out one of our, I think, key data analytics is website traffic, whether it's citizens or our own artists that we're trying to serve. We've in our data metrics in seeing who comes to our website to see what's on the calendar or what's going on in the community have really increased. And number 11 is our fiscal sponsorships. I think this is a unique program that we have that we will continue to grow. which is we use our 501c3 status to assist smaller sort of grassroots arts and cultural organizations and provide them with some financial and organizational assistance. And they don't have what would otherwise be debilitating costs to have that. They can function. So those are 3 of our partners. Our 2018 work plan, which this all reflects what's in the contract, but looking forward, we're going to continue to develop the year-round programming with the Sioux Falls Arts and Culture Collaborative. We're working on thought leader panel series to be held at various community libraries and other publicly available and accessible fora in which artists, scholars, and community activists are able to engage in some of these issues. And as you note in the presentation, when we make reference to the goals, those are all goals that are set out in this Sioux Falls Imagined. In April of 2018, we expect to publish our Community Guide to the Arts. It will be available in print and electronic format in English and in Spanish. And looking forward, we're continuing to work on the searchable Arts and Cultural Organization Directory, which will be published on the Sioux Falls Arts Council website. And that, in a sort of one-stop shop place, provides not only our businesses, but our citizens with a directory of various arts and cultural organizations and arts as well. And finally, in the near future, we'll be hosting the biennial Sioux Falls Awards in the Arts in mid-March, where we recognize 6 award winners in 4 different categories, from Lifetime Achievement in the Arts, Individual Excellence, Forward Arts 2018, and finally an Innovative Arts Project to recognize those who are out there in the community really carving a new path for everyone. And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Eglin. So questions from the committee, Councilor Rolfing.
What, just out of curiosity, what kind of citywide art event are you thinking about for 19?
Well, it'll be our 50th anniversary. So what we're trying to, so this is an organization that was started in 1969 in various iterations. It would be premature to identify exactly what's underneath our hat, but we're trying to have a recognition of that, both the longevity but also looking forward. So if I knew the answer, I'd tell you, but it's still sort of being worked out.
Works, okay.
Yep.
And one more, if I could, the 105, going back to one of the very first slides, economic impact, 105.4 million in annual economic activity. Where does this come from? Is this the pavilion? Is it the zoo? Is it the the Visual Arts Center? Different things like that. Where it comes from?
It's that. It's total direct expenditures, and we have a press release back in June, and I have sort of a synopsis of the economic impact piece. But the 105 million is not just the ticket price from a concert at the Premier Center or the Pavilion. It goes as far as to try and track, and this is a survey instrument where individuals we've surveyed and used statistical analysis to show they've come into Sioux Falls to attend the Pavilion for a day and a night. They have hotels for one night, and they had 3 meals out. So that's kind of the economic analysis that gets to it.
Okay.
Good. Other questions? All right. Exciting, really exciting information. And I'm glad to see that you tied it in with the Sioux Falls Imagined report as well. That's really useful for us. Question then, do we have between the Arts Council and the city, is there a written contract, and we follow that contract with reporting and all of that kind of stuff?
So yes, there's a 2018 contract that tracks our city work plan, and every year, my understanding is around September, October, we start to look forward to the next iteration of it, and then we'll be providing reports May, and I believe sometime late in the 3rd quarter, that tracks the expenditures. It's usually a quarterly payment, and we go from there. But yeah, there is a contract.
Great. All right.
Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this afternoon, this evening, which has become this evening. Mr. Bixler, will you come back up and give us some advice? Our next steps will be Committee, I want to hear from you as well. We did, as we got about halfway through it, I was thinking, oh, are we giving the perception that this is the chopping block and that we're out here to see what we can hatchet? And I hope that it became clear that's not what this was about, that it really was about just kind of a fact-finding mission in terms of that the money that a really very small portion of the overall city budget that the city council does have control over, and that we really wanted to just make sure that we understood what was going on. And so I'm looking for advice not only from Mr. Bixler, but from the council. How would you like to proceed at this point? You have a couple of options. One would be to not do anything and just allow it to proceed as it is. All of these have been approved in the 2018 budget. The other would be to have another meeting and start whacking away at the numbers. So, Mr. Bixler, I'm going to ask for your sort of insight now.
I would say another alternative would be to use this as moving forward into the 2019 budgeting process, that you've kind of gotten a reset on what these entities provide, and that I think is really the information that I think is pertinent to the council.
Good point. Yes, Councilor Erickson.
Through this whole process, it has been stated by many, many people, and I keep going back to this as what is the role of government? And I will ask every single one of you that same question, and I will get an absolute different question from every single one of you. And that's okay. That's okay. That's government. That's the way this works. And so, you know, as we look through these things and look at some of them I feel like we're getting a bargain. We're getting a really good deal on some of these programs that are meeting a need in our community. You know, it's not fun to throw dollars at things and from time to time, but seeing that the amount of work that is being done and the percentage of dollars we are getting for their budget, 2%, geez, that's a pretty good deal, and some of the other ones as well. And so I think it was very interesting information. It was good to know. I think we can do things better. I think that there needs to be better reporting to the city. I think there needs to be better reporting to the city council. I think that we obviously need a contract in place for each one. And I think that there needs to be, you know, making sure that the partnership is highlighted and identified, that we have a say in some of this as well. Because I don't know that that's been done in the past for some, not all, but I'm saying some throughout this process. And so making sure that if we identify a need in a direction, that these nonprofits are also willing to be receptive to some of that as well. But they are, after all, the experts in that niche, and so we need to honor what they know as well. Some of them being the match. It's a pretty good return on our investment as well. And again, I keep going back to this, is this the role of government? And I see things that we do now, and I just go, ooh, is that really the role of government? But we do them. You know, we do them as a city, and somebody else may disagree with me and say, yes, they are. You know, discussing fruits and veggies is the role of government. I'm not sure it is. For me, I know I need to eat better. I know I need to exercise better. And is that somewhere we should be investing a lot of dollars, or should we be doing it in drug prevention? That's a conversation we need to continue to have, because I just think it's so important. And so I'll leave it at that. I think that this was very beneficial, as well as all this information we've been receiving.
Right, exactly. Other comments? Councilor Starr?
I think this was a great exercise today. I think as policymakers for the city of Sioux Falls, we need this information, and we need to see and be able to remind our citizens of the good results that we're getting as part of our investment in these programs. How do you put a price on a young person learning math or being able to get to grade level and have something productive for his or her afternoon, rather than possibly running the streets and being destructive? At the same time, if we can help them succeed, that's as much of a workforce development program as any. But what was interesting as we went through these few programs this afternoon is how they interlink with other programs that we're doing. It's not only taking that individual program and taking a look at it in one spot, it's how it affects the other programs that we're doing as a city. if we eliminated a program like the YMCA's after-school program, or we wouldn't eliminate the program, but eliminate our funding for that program, there are less students who are able to participate. They would be in our community centers. They would be causing potential problems for our police department, who would have to supervise some of those things and activities that may not be as productive. Our libraries continue to be overcrowded with kids after school as part of after-school programs. It's our community centers that do that as well. So looking at what we're doing overall, I think is a very good review of what we do and the trust that we have with our taxpayers that they're getting a good return on their investment. But also, you know, we say it all the time, how do we do drug prevention? We do drug prevention by keeping people off in productive activities, helping them succeed in school, helping them have a snack if that keeps Counselor Rolfing and I happy and out of trouble in the afternoon, making sure Grandma and Grandpa have that same snack in the afternoon, and keeping them in their own homes. How do you put an overall price on society to have someone to get to spend their last days at home because we provide a meal for them? A very small part of the match of providing that meal. So I think we've done some good things today. I think this gives us some policy directive that as we put the 2019 budget together of what we expect as a council and what we like to see, and to be able to share some of that with our fellow council members as well, those that could be here in the audience today, as well as those who will have the opportunity to review what we did on CityLink or on SIRE.
Good, thank you. Councilor Rolfing.
I'm, Counselor, you and I are in a unique situation the last time we get to do anything like this. And I kind of got a little different look at this thing as I was going through it and saying, you know, where does it really match our city values, our city ethics, our city goals and dreams and objectives, if you will? And I'm thinking, do we need to maybe look at increasing some of these budgets rather than decreasing them because of the return on investment and because of the good, just flat out good that they do for our citizenry? So I'm wondering, the question I'm sure is that the administration was probably looking at is that if we cut their funds a little bit, they'll make it up someplace else. They'll find the money someplace else, or they'll go out and ask somebody to give it to them and that kind of thing. I'm wondering if we shouldn't maybe do something more like a challenge to these people that we think need some additional funds or could use some additional funds, and that is offer them a carrot of, we'll give you an extra $10,000, we'll give you an extra 20, we'll give you an extra 50, you match it. Whatever up to $50,000 you can raise for this program on an ongoing basis, we'll match it for you. And I'm wondering if that wouldn't be an incentive for them to really go out and hit the streets, number one. Number two, to really, if they really believe in the program that they're doing, they're going to go out and find that money from someplace. And we could really get a return on our investment that way. Just some thoughts for future counselors.
Sure, good. All right, any other comments? Looking then for action from the committee. Action may be that we are going to do nothing and this just proceeds in the way that it would, or action might be to move something to council, or action might just be to adjourn. Do we want to report?
I think that we should obviously report this back to full council. I know with the timeline and other folks taking advantage of being able to watch this at home so they could continue to work. And so at a minimum, we need to do some sort of report to the full council and have a discussion amongst ourselves to see next steps is what I would suggest.
Well, and then coming from the chair, just kind of the two things that are really kind of takeaways for me that I would challenge the committee to think about too is one, that idea of better reporting. I mean, there were several times when we asked, so do we have a contract with you? Do we get any kind of reporting? And they'll say, yeah, sure, we've given it to staff, or we always sign something, and council doesn't necessarily know. So that would be one thing that I'd like to see us doing a little bit of better job of. The other thing that I think that that really is something to think about is how, when those contracts do go through, make sure that we have the contracts first, but when they go through our system, that we make sure as a council that we're highlighting them, that we remind ourselves at those times, and maybe it's a staff role to say to us, remember, this is one of those that you've been particularly watching, and that we're aware of how that progresses through the system. So those would be things that I would want us to think about as council members, and as you said, Councilor Rolfing, as future council members need to be aware of those things. That again, this is a very tiny portion of the overall budget of the city of Sioux Falls, but it is something that as we've noted, that these small amounts of dollars are huge amounts of dollars when it comes to the money that's leveraged and to the impact that those monies are having in our communities. So important work. Mr. Bixler, anything in closing?
Yes. I think we need to consider that there are a number of contracts that still need to be executed by the administration. And so some action needs to be taken as moving forward than just adjourning or.
Good point. Councilor Rolfing.
Mr. Bixler, how much were the funds cut to these organizations in the 18 budget?
$232,000.
Okay, and I don't have all this stuff with me, but I know you do. So total that would have been added to it, 230-some thousand plus?
From the 2017 budget to the 2018 amended budget, the spending decreased by about $4,000.
Four?
That doesn't consider the recommended budget from the administration, the 2018 recommended budget.
So again, you're speaking in accounting terms, and I have problems with accounting terms.
2017 budget was 2.45, I'll say.
Okay.
And then 2018 budget amended was 2.4 or.
Okay, so there was $4,000 difference?
Yes. After
By the time we got done telling them, no, we're not going to cut this and this and this.
Correct.
I would think we could recommend that the council go ahead with the as a amended budget at this point, and would suggest to the city council and specifically the finance or the, what are we at here, fiscal committee, that they look at positions again for the 2019. And that Mr. Bixler could handle that sort of for him, and maybe even look at increasing some if the will is there.
Okay, so I have a motion to essentially affirm the budget as it is and to keep it on the front burner for the council to look at in the future. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I think Councilor Rolfing has the right idea that we need to take at least a formal action of what we looked at today. I didn't look at anything today that I'm comfortable cutting. We've put the funding back in the budget. That's where we're at. So I think that takes that official step that we did do what we said we were going to do. When we put the funding, when we made the amendments to the budget, we said we'd take our time. We'd take a look at all of the agencies and make sure that we're getting a return on our investment. We're getting services that are needed, and that we'll make sure that the contracts and agreements and the overall look at what's going on to make sure the citizens are getting what they're paying for, and I think we've done that. And so this motion formalizes that and it informs the administration and the full council of what we're thinking.
Okay. Other comments from the committee? Hearing none, I'd take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you all. With all of that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.